key. And it is the climax and the end of Chumash Bereshis Sefer HaAvos. And in this week's Parsha, we all are familiar with the story of Yaakov Avinu calling his children together. Yikabtzu v'agidu lachem es asher yikra eschem b'yachas hayomim. And Yaakov benches his children. Unlike every parent that will love to bench his children before he passes away to Olam Haba, the blessing of Yaakov is not only a personal bracha to each and every one of his great children, but as I explain almost every other week in Chumash Bereshis, Masa Ovis Yitzir Labonim, everything the Ovis did, everything that occurred to them, is not only for their day and age. It's not only the story of individuals, a father with his children. As we learn in Onkelos, Rashi, Midrash Chazal, it is all prophecy. And Yaakov addresses not only his children, but all the coming generations of Klal Yisrael till the end of days. There is one halacha that we learn from these brachas, and that is the concept of Yissachar-Zevulun. So what is Yissachar-Zevulun all about? So many wonderful people I know prefer to have a Yissachar-Zevulun arrangement when they want to give money to support Torah, and it's a great idea. So today we will explain what is Yissachar-Zevulun all about, and I have a unique understanding and interpretation of this concept, which is somewhat different than others, but this is really a fascinating sugya. So in this week's parsha, Zvoran lachoif amem yishkoin v'hu lachoifoni yois, and then Yaakov Avinu goes on to bench Yissachar chamoyer gorom roivitz bein hamishpusayim, and Rashi on the spot writes, Shoya Zevulun oisik b'parkamatya v'mamtzi mozen l'shevet Yissachar v'hem oiskim b'Torah v'hu she'omer Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu also benches the 12 tribes of Israel in Parshas V'zois HaBrocha. V'hu she'omer Moshe smach Zevulun b'tzeisecha v'Yissachar b'yolecha. Zevulun oisik b'parkamatya v'Yissachar oisik b'Torah b'oiholim. Rashi does not mention that this is a contractual settlement. Rashi doesn't speak about shutvis, he doesn't speak about purchase. Rashi merely writes that Zevulun does business and he supports Yissachar, that Tzitza learns, not more than that. However, Rashi in Parshas V'zois HaBrocha, on the Posek Rashi is quoting here, Smach Zevulun b'tzeisecha v'Yissachar b'yolecha, Rashi does write, also shutvis beineihem. And that is the Lashon of Medrash, as we find in Tanchume in this week's Parsha. Ois Yud Aleph. Kadam Zevulun Yissachar, v'lama, sheZevulun oisik b'parkamatya v'Yissachar oisik b'Torah, also shutfis beineihem. They made a partnership, shetei parkamatya shel Zevulun liYissachar. And this is exactly what we will discuss today. Is this a formal partnership? Is it like a transaction, acquisition? How do we define Yissachar-Zevulun? So before going further, I just want to note a diuk in the Lashon of the Medrash. Also, shutfis b'neihem, shetei parkamatya shel Zevulun liYissachar. But the Medrash doesn't say, so what does Yissachar have to offer? Rashi says, what is the shutfis? That some of the business profits of Zevulun goes to Yissachar. But Rashi doesn't say, so what's Zevulun's part of the deal? What does Yissachar need to give up or give away? What is he offering? The Medrash doesn't say. And remember this, because I will come back to it. Shulchan Aruch and Ramah seem to have slightly different versions and interpretations of Yissachar-Zevulun. Reish Mem Vav Sif Aleph, Hilchos Tzedakah. Shulchan Aruch writes, if a person cannot learn, he could supply others, help others with their learning and support them, and it is considered as if he would be learning himself. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't mention Yissachar-Zevulun, but the Shulchan Aruch, the Beis Yosef, is based on the Tur, and the Tur does. The Lashon of the Torah is, Mi she'i ef shaloi lilmoid, mepnei she'en yodea klal lilmoid. person can't learn because he's not versed. He's not knowledgeable. He doesn't know how to learn. O mipnei teredas hazman. He is too busy. Yaspek lacherim aloindim v'yachoshev lo כאילו הוא לומד בעצמו. כמו שדורשו חכמים בפסוק, smach zvulun b'tzisecha v'yisocha b'yolecha. So the Torah is similar to the Beis Yosef. He does not talk about an agreement, a settlement, a transaction, a shutvis. He just says somebody that can learn himself should support another that does learn, and it is considered as if he is learning. But he does connect this to Yissachar-Zevulun. The Ramah on the spot, Reish Mem Vav Sif Aleph. Yochal Odom lahasnois im chaveira. A person could make an agreement with another. Shu yasik b'Torah, v'hu yamtzel penosa, v'yach lo kiyemoi b'sechar. So the Ramah does speak about a formal agreement, a contractual agreement. Lahasnois im chaveira. Then the Ramah goes on to explain. It is only mekan el haba, for now to the future, but not referring to the past. So if Zvulun already learned 10 years, 20 years, and then Yissachar comes along and he wants to buy into his learning, that doesn't work. The source of this differentiation is in Saita Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. Chazal interpret the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Im yitenish kol hoin beisoy ba'ahavo boiz yavoizu lo. And Chazal say, Lo keshem Ach Yazariya v'lo kerebudu de benasiyah, ela kehilel v'shavana. Rashi explains. Shimon Ach Yazariya is mentioned in the very beginning of Masechet Zvachim. And it is a mystery. Because in the days of the Tanoim, all the great Tanoim record on their father's name. You remember the names, they're very well known. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, Rab Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rab Shimon ben Yochai, Rab Yehuda bar Eloi, Rab Yossi ben Chalafta, Rab Chanina ben Dosa, and all the others. Nowhere is a Tana mentioned on the name of his brother besides Shimon Achi Azariah. And Rashi explains, Azariah was the businessman, Shimon was the scholar, Azariah supported Shimon, and that is why Lechvoidoi shel Zevulun, Lechvoidoi shel Azariah, the great Tana, Shimon was called Shimon Achi Azariah. That is legitimate. Rabbi Yehuda ben Asi is legitimate. The Nasi supported him, he should be able to learn. Hillel v'Shavna was a B'diavad story. Hillel learned Torah and Torah. Then Shavna comes along after 20 years and he said, I want to be a partner. Sell me part of the reward of your learning. That doesn't work, and that is the source of the Ramah. Reb Shloime Kluger, Shalosh Shuvas Tuf Tamadas Chelek Aleph Siman Reish Yud Zayin, tells a story of two people that made an agreement, and Reuven buys out Shimon, he buys into Shimon's Torah and mitzvahs, and then the seller, Shimon, regretted, wanted to retract, and they came to a din Torah for Reb Shloime Kluger, and Reb Shloime Kluger says, your agreement is totally void anyway. It means nothing because it was a b'diavad. Reuven already learned. Shimon wanted to buy into his sechar. That doesn't work. And Reb Shloime Kluger quotes beautiful pshat, a beautiful diak, in the name of his son Chaim Yehuda. He writes, "My little boy, Hayeled Chaim Yehuda," and in due time, ultimately, he would be a great Marbitz Torah and a great Talmid Chacham, the son of Reb Shloime Kluger. So the little boy said, Lama kodem Zvulun li Yissachar, because the Zvulun needs to come before the Yissachar. Before the Yissachar starts learning, the Zvulun needs to be there for him and promise him support. And that is why in the Pasuk, in the brachas of Moshe Rabbeinu, Smach Zvulun b'tzisecha, v'Yissachar b'yolecha. Because if the Zvulun comes after Yissachar, doesn't work. He needs to be there before. Beautiful. Now, how do we define the very concept of Yissachar-Zevulun? There are two fundamental approaches, and my interpretation would be somewhat a third approach, which would be bringing the two poles together. The most important and the earliest source in this sugya is Tshuvas Maram al-Shakar Siman Kuf Aleph, going back 600 years. But the importance of this tshuva is far greater than Maram al-Shakar, because the entire tshuva is a quote from Rav Hai Gaon, one of the greatest Gaonim going back more than 1,000 years. And I'm just quoting the opening lines of this tshuva. Oid she'alto am yesh mamash ba'oisen she'moichrim zchuyosei ze leze. Im zohar ha'koino o im hifsid ha'moichar ve'im pe'ula zu yesh la'ikar. Is there such a thing that a person could buy in to the reward, the schar mitzvah of another tshuva? Lo matzos yemokom ladov hazeh, ki em tshuva she'ala Rabbeinu hai gaon. And then he quotes the lengthy tshuva. In one line, Rav Hai Gaon says there is no such a thing of buying schar olam haba. You have nothing to sell, and you have nothing to buy. Tzidkes hatzadek lo tihiyeh v'rishas harosha lo tihiyeh. That's a posik in Navi. Zevulun noitel schar pu'ulosoi. Not more. It's not a transaction. It's not a shutfis, a partnership. It's about supporting Torah. And if you support the Torah, you have sachar. Schar pu'ulosoi, nothing more than that. This is a very special time for me, and I just forgot to mention it at the beginning of the Shiur. It's been about 2 or 3 years that I've been promising, almost steadily, Odem Ma'at. Soon we're going to have the new edition of Minchas Osher al HaTorah. Finally, we have it. And it's right before me, and I'm reading some of today's Shiur from this Sefer. It's a milestone. I wrote 35 Sforim, Baruch Hashem, but the flagship is still Minchas Osher al HaTorah. It is the most popular of my Sforim. Many kahillas and shuls throughout the world have shiurim kvuim every Shabbos, the middle of the week in Minchas Osher al HaTorah. And we've been waiting for this monumental work. It is monumental. 500 simonim, touching 500 sugyas in Shas, which is amazing. And a lot of heart and a lot of hard work went into this sefer. And it comes with a special extra volume, just the index, because there are so many sugyas. So most of the Shiur I'm giving you today is from the new Minchas Osher al HaTorah, Bereishis Siman Kuf, page 770, because this is, Baruch Hashem, a huge sefer. So I thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu. And today we'll have a mesubah in the koilel, in which I will say a shechiyanu and a new talas kotten, and I bear in mind the shechiyoni thanking Kodesh Baruch Hu for this amazing gift. We should be able for many more wonderful years to come to teach Torah, to lehagdil Torah, uladir, and to write many more sforim. Be'ezes Hashem Yisborach. So coming back to our sugya, in Minchas Osher I dealt with the question, so how would Rav Hai Gaon explain? We learn Torah le'ilui nishmas ameisim. We do mitzvahs le'ilui nishoma. We make a siyum le'ilui nishoma. If there's no such a thing, you could get schar from someone else. Tzidkas hatzadek lo tiyeh, rishas harosha lo tiyeh. So what's the point in learning mishnayos le'ilui nishoma? I think even Rav Hai Gaon would need to accept that there are some concepts which are beyond the legal concepts of schar v'oinish. Yes, this is Mesoides Habriya. We might not understand it, but there is an inyan a person could learn le'ilui nishama, and a person could do mitzvahs to the benefit of the deceased. But that's not the focus of today's shiur. It's just a side comment regarding the approach of Rav Hai Gaon and Maram al-Shakar. The second most important source is the Beis Yosef. Not a Beis Yosef. Shalosh Teshuvos Avkas Loichel. And the Avkas Loichel Siman Beis seems to have a very legalistic, transaction-based approach to Yissachar-Zevulun. It is a formal agreement and somewhat a type of buying into. And therefore, according to the Beis Yosef in his tshuva, even if the Yissachar, the scholar, is not poor, you're not mekayim a mitzvah of tzedakah, Nevertheless, you still can have an agreement of Yissachar-Zevulun, and it is legitimate. And according to the Bis Yosef, each of them gets 50% of the reward, because partnership is partnership. You're getting paid and you need to give away. That is the approach of the Bis Yosef. And the Igris Moshe, Reb Moshe, Yoredei Chelik Dalet Siman Zayin, the most important source of contemporary poskim, of present-day poskim, is Reb Moshe. And it is a bit strange, but that's typical of the Igris Moshe. He ignores both Maram Alshkar and the Bis Yosef and Avkas Reichel. These are the earliest and most important sources. But sometimes Reb Moshe, like a huge bulldozer, just paves his way straight from the Gemara and the Meforsha Shas to Halacha Lamaise. He does not quote neither Maram Alshkar nor Rav Hai Gaon nor the Bis Yosef, and that is somewhat strange, but anybody familiar with Reb Moshe is not very surprised. And Reb Moshe's fundamental approach is also, this is an agreement, it's a partnership, it's a transaction, and it has that nature. And Reb Moshe writes certain klalim. You need to give him full support, otherwise you're not a shutuf. And if you're shutuf, you'll get 50%. Now let me say to you and explain what my approach is. I am less troubled that my approach doesn't fit in well with the Igris Moshe. I'm more troubled by the fact it doesn't fit in well with the Avkas Reichel, but many times I tell my Talmidim, I never said any Chiddush that goes with all the sources. Somebody that only wants to learn Torah that everybody agrees upon is a Karai, because it is only the Tanakh that everybody agrees upon. The very first Mishnah in Shas is a machlokes. The last Mishnah in Shas is a machlokes. And most of the Mishnayos between the two are machlokes. That is the nature and the essence of Torah Shabbat Peh. So what I say today, the beauty of it is the logic, and it brings together Rav Hai Gaon, the Mechaber, and the Ramah, and all are the same. It's one beautiful psifas, but it doesn't fit in well with the approach of the Avkas Reichel, the Bis Yosef. So let me say this. Tzodek Rav Hai Gaon, you can't sell Olam Haba. It's not yours. It's not your possession. It's not like a monetary ownership. And if I can't sell, you have nothing to buy. So lechatchila, I had a thought. Maybe the Yissachar-Zevulun proposal idea is not like Mekech Umemka, not like Mechira, but rather Schiras Poyalim. Maybe it's like renting a poil. Sug of Schiras Poyalim, not Mekech Umemkar, not Hilchas Mechira Umatona, but rather Hilchas Schiras Poyalim. I hire a worker. I could hire a painter to paint my house. I could hire a scribe to write my book. I hire a scholar to learn Torah for me. And I'm paying him. He's working for me. Maybe that is the arrangement. I'm giving him money, and he works for me, so I buy into his Torah. And maybe it's Schiras Poyalim, not Mekech Umemkar. And that would solve the problem. How could I sell something which isn't mine? It's not purchase. It's not kinyan. It is schiras. No, I think this is also wrong. There is no such a thing you learn for me. You could build my house. You could write my book. I could pay you to write a book for someone else. But when a person learns, he learns for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person learns, he learns for himself. So I don't think Schiras Poyalim would be the right approach. Lani es daiti. Yissachar-Zevulun is a partnership in learning, only in learning. If I support you and you learn better, I'm a partner in your learning. Not in the reward, not in Olam Haba. As if we're learning together, because you wouldn't be able to learn without me. and I'm not learning, I'm supporting you, and therefore it is as if we're learning together. And that is exactly what the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch write. It is considered as if he is learning as well. And the sechar I get is not because I bought something, but rather I supported and enabled another person to learn, and therefore my sechar is as if I am learning. So what is the added value of Yissachar-Zevulun, and why is it different than any person supporting Torah? The added value is when a person lives from handouts, he worries every day. So today I got tzedakah. What'll I do tomorrow? So he doesn't have menuchas nefesh, and every day he needs to stretch out his hand and ask for nedavas. The Yissachar-Zevulun arrangement binds the Zevulun. He takes upon himself to support the Yissachar on a steady basis, weekly, monthly, for a year, for 2 years. And that gives the Yissachar, the scholar, a level of calm and comfort. He knows, I don't have to worry every day in the morning. And that is the difference between a person that just gives tzedakah for a koil or yeshiva and a person that signs an agreement. The fact that the Yissachar knows someone is out there taking care of me, and I don't have to worry every day in the morning, every week, every Motzei Shabbos, every Rosh Chodesh. That is the added value of Yissachar-Zevulun. Essentially, like Maram Alshka, like Rav Hai Gaon. You're not buying, it's not a purchase, it's not a transaction, but it is a shutvis, and it is an agreement. And the agreement primarily binds the Zevulun. And that is the lotion of the Medrash I quoted at the beginning of the Shiur. Also, shutvis b'neim, shetei parkamat yeshel Zevulun Yissachar. Part of Zevulun's profits go to Yissachar. That's the agreement. What does Yissachar give in return? He gives nothing, because he has nothing to give. What he gives is a promise, I will learn Torah. And I will learn better because of your support. That is what Yissachar needs to promise. He doesn't need to promise 50% of my sechar. It's not yours, and you cannot sell it. You can't give away 1%, you can't give away 50%, you can't give away 99%. You have nothing to give away. All you have to offer is learn Torah, and learn better because of the support of the Zevulun. So it is a shutvis. Not mecher, not schiras poyalim, a shutvis in learning. My learning is as if you learn, because it is similar to a person that can learn on his own, but he learns better with a chavrusa. So when two people learn together as a chavrusa, each of them has the sechar of learning and the sechar of teaching, because my chavrusa learns better because we're learning together. So the Zevulun supporting Yissachar and enabling Yissachar to learn better is considered as if their chavrusa, as if both of them are learning together. So on one hand, yes, it's a shutvis. It's a tanai. But it's not necessarily a machlokes between the Shorch and the Ramah. Because even according to the Ramah, the fundamental idea is if I support a person and he learns Torah, it is considered as if I am learning as well. So there's no fundamental difference between the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. It is an agreement. It's a formal agreement. Yes, we could sign a contract. But contract just is meant to give the Yissachar the level of comfort. I don't have to worry. Somebody took upon himself to support me, to help me, and therefore I could learn better. And if I learn better, it is considered as if he is learning as well. So one of the big questions regarding Yissachar-Zevulun is, how much does everyone get? According to the Bis Yosef, Igres, Moshe, each of them gets 50%, because if this is the lump sum of my reward and we need to share it, each of us gets 50%. According Orach Chaim HaKodesh the Hafla and the Bnei Yissachar, Orach Chaim Hafron, his introduction to his amazing Sefer Ksubis, B'nei Yissachar Chodesh Sivan, Megillas Rus, Ma'amar Chet Oizevav, and they all bring the mashal of Madlika Mener Lener. You have one candle, you light another. The original candle, who gave light to another, is not diminished. And therefore the Yissachar stays with 100%. The Zevulun also gets 50%. And the Bnei Yissachar writes the same regarding Neshais Talmida Chacham, the women, the wife. When a Talmid Chacham is out there teaching Torah, and there is a woman behind him, supporting, encouraging, forthcoming, taking upon herself to lessen the burden on her husband's learning, she gets 50%, writes the Bnei Yissachar, just like any other Zevulun. Offering money to the Yissachar is not more important than offering moral support and encouragement that only a wife could give. So the Bnei Yissachar says the Yissachar has 100%, the Zevulun gets 50%. And according to my approach, both get 100%. The Zevulun is considered as if he is learning together with the Yissachar. We're learning together. Like two chavrusas learning all day and all night, both get 100%. And I like the mushal of the two candles. But my argument, my comment is, yes, the original candle is not diminished, neither is the new one. And candle number 2 burns as bright as candle number 1, which means each of them gets 100%. So years ago, we published a Kuntres Darke Heroa dedicated to the concept of Yissachar-Zevulun. And in that Kuntres, we have a few different stories, documents, Yissachar-Zevulun. One of the amazing ones was one written up by Rabbi Zalman Meltzer for a young scholar named Yisrael Yanka Fisher, ultimately to be one of the greatest Gedolim of our generation. And he was a young Lamdan. And Rabbi Zalman Meltzer found the Zevulun to support him, and he wrote up the shtar, and Rabbi Fisher took upon himself to learn Bahasmoda Beinonis. Amazing. Hasmoda Beinonis, average Hasmoda. Obviously, he was afraid to take upon himself anything extreme, but I assume that the average of Smoda of Rabbi Yanka Fisher was quite good. Quite good. So in that contrast, you could find my Yissachar-Zevulun formula, which is unique in one line. And that shtar says that this document, this agreement, is subject to the Shitta of the Minchas Osher in his Sefer. And that gives the Yissachar confidence. I am not losing out. Because the agreement is dependent. It's a stipulation in the shtar according to the Shitta of the Minchas Osher. And therefore, in my opinion, Yissachar is left with 100%. Zevulun gets 100%. Whatever Yissachar learns, it is as if he's learning together with Zevulun. Two people learning together. Do they need to share the Zachar? Poshet k'shemesh b'tzorayim. They don't share. They don't split. After all, each of them is learning. Each of them gets 100% of Schar Torah. That is my fundamental understanding. L'shitosi, the Yissachar really needs to learn. And if he doesn't learn, might be gezer. So his part of the deal is you learn. And the more you learn, the better for you and for your partner. Does one need to shy away from signing Yissachar-Zevulun agreement? Minchas Osher al ha-Torah. Otchet Simen Kof Bereshis, Simen Kuf Bereshis Otchet. There's a letter I wrote. And I quoted the Pele Yoetz. The Pele Yoetz said, a person should not go into a Yissachar-Zevulun agreement only if it's a total necessity. It's better to learn Torah metoichet chak. But why would you sell and give away olam haba? According to my approach, there's no reason to shy away. Lehefech. If you could learn better, even a drop better, why not? It's also chesed. Why not be happy to have a Zevulun? Let him share the benefits of Talmud Torah. You're not losing anything. So why shy away? If you do not need his support, and you won't learn better for being supported by him, then the agreement is invalid anyway. It is only valid, it has any benefit only if you're really going to learn better because of his support. And therefore, if you're well-to-do and you have $500,000 in the bank and you sign Yissachar-Zevulun with someone and you're not really learning better because of his support, that's gezel, that's void. But if you will be learning better, why not? Why not learn better? And why not be happy that you mezake another person as well, and it would be considered as if he is learning together with you. So my fundamental feeling is it is totally unjust and unreasonable that Reuven and Shimon are both learning all day and all night. Reuven had a very wealthy Baba, and she passed away, and he has a big Yerisha, so he doesn't need anybody to support him. So he will get 100% Schar Torah. His friend Shimon did not have a wealthy Baba. Maybe he does have a wealthy Baba and she's still alive. So he doesn't have the means, and there's a Zevulun supporting him. So he gets less Sachar. Is that justified? Could we understand that? Two people are learning. They're both learning Basmodi Gedoyla. So one guy gets 100 ton of Olam Haba every day, and the other person gets 50 ton. And why is that? Because you have a Zevulun. You don't have a Zevulun because you had a rich grandmother. She's your Zevulun. So why would I get more than my friend? And therefore, to me, the Yisachar has 100%, and so does the Zevulun. 40 years ago, approximately 40 years ago, there was a strange question that came up in Bnei Brak. There was a little girl that had to be flown to America to have life-saving surgery, and her life was in immediate danger, and there was a campaign to raise the funds. We needed $200,000. And, you know, it was publicized in the press, and the Haredi press were raising money to save a child. That was way before there were, you know, the internet and digital technology and social media and what called Marin Bishin Sheyesh. We tried to raise the money, and a person came and he said he represents someone that wants anonymity. And in a moment you'll understand why he wanted anonymity, not because he was such a big tzaddik matan b'seisa. And he said, I have lived all my life in sin. And I'm afraid, because I'm getting older. So I am willing to give $100,000 to anyone that is willing to take 50% of my olam haba. Obviously, his olam haba was not very appealing, and it didn't have a great market. And some of the Gedolim turned to me. This is a crazy question. Is there such a thing, selling Gehenim? If you could buy into Gan Eden, why can't you buy into Gehenna? Strange. After a week, came back and upped his offer, and he was willing to pay the entire sum of $200,000. And some of the Gedolim turned to me, and I showed them Kvar Hoyo La'olamin. And this question was asked more than 100 years ago and presented to 4 great Gedolim contemporaries. There was a poor man in a shtetl somewhere in Poland or in Hungary. And one day he comes home, B'simcha Gedola, and tells his wife, we're well-to-do, and I found someone that is willing to support us on a steady basis every week to give us a stipend, to give us support. His wife was so moved, but she asked him, who is this person? Why didn't it ever happen? Doesn't make sense. You're not a famous gadol. Why would he support you? And he tells his wife this story. I don't know the guy, but he said he did a lot of Avedas, and he's willing to support me if I take 50% of whatever he has. His wife threw him out of the house, and she said, "No way, I don't want this money, I won't take a penny." And she ran to the Rav of the city to annul this agreement and invalidate it. The Rav was confused, and he turned to four Gedolim. Shuvas Marsham Chelik Gimel Simakuf Nun Aleph. Machne Chaim was a Talmud of the Sam Sofer, Reb Chaim Sofer. Choshe Mishpat Chelik Beis Simachov. Even Yekoro Chelik Gimel Simenun Beis. Chavolim Ben Imam Chelik Gimel Choshe Mishpat Simen Tzadik Chet. And this question was presented to the four of them. Each one of them in his own different and unique style. But the bottom line is, this agreement is totally ridiculous and totally void, and it has no significance at all. Without going into many details, according to my approach, not even by mitzvahs does it work, only by Torah. And I feel this is a special gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Klal Yisrael, and why is that? All the other mitzvahs, the average person has the ability to mekayim. Everybody could put on tefillin, everybody could put on tzitzis. Everybody has the ability to say Kriya Shema twice a day, Shachas V'Avis, and Tadam 3 times a day. But the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, Eli Devorim She'ein Lehem Shiur. And the mitzvah is to learn Torah Yom and V'Layla. Most people have difficulty to be mekayim this mitzvah b'shleimus. And that is exactly what the Torah describes. Many people need to be mekayim the mitzvah of Gisa b'yom v'layla b'kriyas shema shachas v'avis, like we learn in Menochos Tzadik Tes. So many people don't know how to learn, and others don't have the ability to sit for hours and learn. Some people are too busy to learn. But we all have the mitzvah of Gisa b'yom v'layla, and that is why Yissachar-Zevulun is a special gift. If you can't do it on your own, support others that could. And it'll be considered as if you are learning as well. So in my opinion, it doesn't apply to mitzvahs, kal v'chomer, it doesn't apply to Avedas. But at the time, what I suggested to Ploni Almoni, that I never saw, and he hid it behind the screen, the fact that you are willing to pay $200,000 to get rid of your sin, in itself proves you're a Baal Tshuva. It proves beyond doubt that you regret your lifestyle. And Tshuva is mechaper, especially combined with the mitzvah of Atzolas Nefashos, which is the greatest chus. So I plead with you, even though we can't buy your Gehenim, there is no such a thing, but please give the money. And in this chus, this was about 40 years ago. I do not remember clearly whether he gave the money or not. I don't remember. I think he did. But that was the story. So this week we say goodbye to Chumash Bereishis. And I always say, when I read Parshas Vichi, I feel like a little boy, a little child, first day going to school, and father and mother standing next to the window and waving to him. And he takes one step at a time with trepidation, and he's nervous, but he's brave enough to go to Cheder. So it's hard to say goodbye to Sefer HaAvos. We learn so much every week. So in this week's Parsha, Yankov benches his children, like I mentioned at the beginning of this year. And the interpretation of the Unkelos, it's all the future generations. And when he comes to Yosef, he says, Misham roye even Yisrael, miyadei Abir Yankov, Misham roye even Yisrael. And this posik also has Pshat and Drash and Soid. Pshat, Yankov thanks Yosef because he supported and sustained Even, not Reikon, it's an abbreviation of Av and Ben. Even, Avhan Uvenan. But I think in Pneumius it means much more than just praising Yosef for supporting materially for Yankov and his children. Misham roya even Yisrael. In this week's Parsha, we find in Psochim Daf Nun Vav, Zohar Kodesh Parshas Bahar, Targum Yerushalmi on the spot. Because Yankov Galas is a case when Estalku Memeno Shechina. The Shechina left him, and Yankov is terrified. And he turns to his children and he said, is there anyone here I don't really know? Is there anything here I'm not aware of? Shemiyesh belibchem el HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe one of you or some of you don't really believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and don't love Him. Why would he ask that question? And the children say, Pe'echod, Shema Yisrael Avinu. Listen, our dear Father, we all believe and trust and love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kishem she'en belibcho kachem b'limenu. Shema Yisrael Avinu, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The Yerushalmi, Targum Yerushalmi, and the Zohar go into a more profound discussion. Yankov is afraid. Maybe my fate and destiny is the same as Avraham and Yitzchak. Avraham had two children. One was pushed over the fence, out of the Machne, and that is Yishmael, and he was left with one son, Yitzchak. Same happened to Yitzchak. He had Yankov and Esav. Esav is out and Yankov is in. Yankov had 12 children, and he was afraid. Is that his destiny as well? The Zohar gives us a profound and amazing and frightening insight, in a way. And I must stress, in a way. Odom Rishon was poigim, and the Gimel Averes Chamurusha B'Torah, Avodah Zorah Gilei Arayos Shvichas Damim. And it was upon the three great Avos to fix what Odom Rishon broke. The Tikkun of Gilei Arayos was by Avraham Avinu. Yishmael represents Zima, Erva. He was pushed over the fence, and Yitzchak, Kodesh V'Torah, was left to establish Klal Yisrael. The Tikkun of Shvichas Damim was with Yankov and Esav. Yankov is a Ish Damim, a murderer. He was pushed out. Yankov is in. Yankov Avinu knows what's left for him to fix, and that is Avodah Zarah. And all his life, he's observing his children, and he's thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're all tzaddikim, kedoshim v'ta'orim. He's losing no one. And then towards the end of his life, suddenly, Nestalka b'mena Shechina, and Yankov is frightened and anxious. And he says, who knows? Maybe my fate is similar to that of Avraham and Yitzchak, and I too will lose some of my children to be metaken of Avodah Zorah. And that is why he asks, Shemiyesh belibchem el HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then he is gratified when all together say, Kishem she'en belibcho al HaKadosh Baruch Hu, kach ein belibenu. We all believe, we all trust, we all love, we all fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. But the Zohar fails to explain how and why. Why was Yankov's destiny different than his great father and grandfather? Libi Oimeli, there's another Zohar. The three of us represent Torah, Avodah, Gimel es Chosodim. Avraham is Chesed, Yitzchak is Avodah, Yankov is Torah. Torah has a special zgula. And the tikkun of Avodah Zorah was not by a process of elimination, out and in. Who is out and who is in? Different process. Torah mekadeshes, Torah meteheres, Torah purifies. Purifies one's heart, it purifies the neshama, and that is why Yankov, Ishtam Yoshev Aholim. Yankov is the Yesoida Torah. So the tikkun of Yankov Avinu to the Chet of Avodah Zorah is a tikkun of Shleimus, and he loses no one. And that is the blessing to every Jewish parent. Misham Roya Even Yisrael. From Yankov Avinu, miyadei abir Yankov, misham roya even Yisrael, avhan ubinan. And that is my bracha to all of you. We should all be zeichut to have heilig Yiddish nachas from all our children, without exception. Like Yankov Avinu, there is zeicha, mitosoi shlemo lefnei hamokai. So as we say goodbye to Sifron Shel Avos, Kodesh Baruch Hu should remember for us, Chus Avos, we should be able, for many, many wonderful years to come, lahagdil Torah u'ladira, ולקדש שם שמיים.